Okay, so I feel like electric car fans have been very patiently waiting for this dream of the $25,000 brand new electric car, like the affordable for the masses EV that everyone can finally get without even thinking twice. And the more I've thought about it and the more options that I've seen as we get lower and lower in prices over time, the more I've started to wonder if this is even possible. And there's a bunch of math behind why I've been wondering this. First of all, batteries are the most expensive part of any electric car. And so if you want to shave cost, you shave battery. But also, let's look at what's currently out there, right? If you ask people about this dream mythical $25,000 car, I think a lot of them talk about it as like Tesla Model 2, like a smaller compact version of Model 3. The Model 3 right now feels like, to me, that is the bar for the cheapest good electric car. And that's obviously very subjective, but I mean like 300 plus miles of range and under $40,000, let's say. This is all new cars, by the way. I know you can get a used EV for less. But what about underneath that price? Like, I think Ioniq 6 would qualify. That's also like starting just under $40,000. But then as you keep going lower and lower, you get to like the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Bolt, you get to the Konas, and I tested the Mini Cooper SE. I didn't do a video on it, but that car has 100 miles of range basically, and it's just, once you go way down in price, you start to run up against just pure economic physics. And here's another version of it. This is a car I've been testing for about a week now. This is the Fiat 500e. This car starts at $32,000 starting, and it's a new EV, and it's got about 140 miles of range. And you can tell it's a pretty compact car, and we'll get into the specifics of this car in a second, but I see cars like this now and I'm like, wait a second. Not to be pessimistic, but like with eventual inflation and with all the things we're trying to do with good EVs, maybe we'll just never see a $25,000 new EV with good range. Maybe we'll see one with 100, 200 miles of range, but let's look at this car as my example. This is $32,000. Now again, purely subjective, I actually love the look of this car. And I don't think it's just because it's red. I really think this is a good looking car. So you got the 500 logo on the front. You got this little grille here down at the bottom, these little headlights. This kind of has mini looks about the front, but as you get to the side, it's clearly compact, right? And we know that this baseline cheap electric car is gonna have to be compact. So this is a two-door, and to be honest, the driver's seat, very spacious. I just wouldn't wish this back seat on anyone. We get to the back here. This is where you charge the thing. Pop that open. You can see it's a CCS port. It's not an ACS, but again, it's a Fiat. So there's the back of the 500e. And here, look, there's trunk space. Check this out. That's a trunk. That's a real trunk behind the back seats there. That's not a joke of a trunk. That's actually storage space. So you're gonna have to nail the fundamentals just to have a car that people are willing to buy in general. And it's fundamentally more spacious than you'd think. But the thing about trying to minimize costs on a car in general is you have to use cheaper materials. Even if you build it really well, inside and out, to minimize cost, you have to use cheap materials. Right off the bat, smaller wheels. But let's get inside this car real quick. I'll show you what it looks like inside a $32,000 car, even though it's got the interior of something that might cost even less. I almost made this video about the Kia Niro. I had the Kia Niro also for a couple weeks, and I was gonna call it something like the problem with cheap electric cars is because the interior feels like something cheaper because it's sitting on top of an expensive battery that bumps the base price up. So you've gone through all of the work of minimizing the cost of price in this car, and here's what you end up with, right? Okay, this is the Fiat, this is the steering wheel, by the way, power button, totally fine. When you minimize cost in a car, you tend to minimize computers and screens. So you've got this one screen in the middle here. There's no CarPlay, there's no Android Auto. You get this screen back here behind the steering wheel, also pretty small, kind of feels like the Mini. And then everywhere else, it's like, all right, there's fabric up here, there's plastic all around here. There is a good amount of space and storage, and even a little cup holder that pops down here, which I think is a nice, clever use of space. But in general, it's felt, it's fabric, not really a whole lot. And this dash here, I mean, the red is nice because it matches the outside of the car, and I like the design of it. But again, it's plastic. You're sitting in a lot of plastic for a $32,000 car. Now, funny enough, one of the upsides of this car is you do have a lot more of these buttons because there's less happening on the computer. The computer still does a good amount of stuff. You can connect your phone to it. It'll show you your consumption. And there's no one pedal driving, but when you hit the brakes, you can see how much regen you're getting on that little dial right there. But there's also like a bunch of regular AC buttons. There is a wireless charging pad for your phone right there, one USB-A port, and then of course you can lock the car and hit your hazards. Those are all regular buttons. I've also noticed there's no mirror here. I actually don't think that's that big of a cost. There's a regular mirror over here and none there, but okay. Then you want to get into the back seat, so let's explore that. I'm gonna do this for you guys. I'm gonna get into the back seat of the Fiat 500e. Yes, it's still on. It gets annoyed when I get out even though I haven't hit the power button. Okay, pop this back here. Whew, I do this for the videos. Okay, so this is the 6'3" driving position that I just described. And this is my current legroom situation. Matter of fact, I could probably spread out across the back seat sideways like this. But it's not ideal. I have also sat in the back seat of my own Porsche 911 once just to say I did it. And it was a lot like this. This was a tiny bit more room, but this isn't made to have a bunch of people in the back seats. There's no screen back here, no ports back here, no footwell room. This is just, it exists for maybe some kids once in a while. So if you end up with this car that I just showed you for $32,000, how do you go about making this car even cheaper to get it down to $25,000? I mean, it's already this. Sorry, I didn't hit the power button. I do get annoyed by that personally, but yeah, okay, fine. There you go. How do you make this car $25,000? That's my question. Do you make it even smaller? Do you make it a total two-door and ignore the back seats completely? Do you remove even more things? Do you take out even more materials? Do you make the wheels even smaller? Do you make the battery even smaller? Because again, as of right now, it's not the most powerful car in the world, but it's got the electric torque. It's zippy. It'll get you 0 to 60 in like 7 seconds. It's fine. It's even got these little design details from Fiat that make it feel special. It's a solid car, but you gotta get $7,000 off of this price. You really gotta cut a lot. And as of right now, battery being the most expensive thing, this car currently has a pretty small battery that gets at 140 miles of range. So you're gonna dramatically cut into the 140 miles of range. So I feel like you get where I'm going with this. I wonder if the $25,000 electric car dream is even possible. I mean, obviously right now it doesn't exist, so we could argue it's impossible right now. But will it ever exist? Will we ever get batteries that are so good and so battery energy dense and so cheap that we can sell cars for $25,000? And will we get there before inflation means we don't have that as the price? I don't know. I tend to think that yes, we will eventually get to the goal of sustainable electric cars for everyone, but I think the bar for what that price tag is just going to slowly creep up over time. And I do remember like that first interview that I did with Elon on video where I asked about the grand master plan and eventually getting to a cheap $25,000 car, and that must have been about a decade ago, and that seemed realistic, $25,000 at the time, but I don't know. I'm super curious what you guys think, and I'll listen in the comments and talk to you guys. I'm sure you all know much more than me about this stuff, but what do you think? Will we ever get a $25,000 electric car for brand new? Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Peace.